I don't ever remember going on a vacation without going by and getting Jim. One time when we lived in Indianapolis, we were sitting around the kitchen table and Daddy said, let's go for a drive. And Mother said, you go ahead and take the kids and while I clean up the kitchen. And he said, well, I was thinking about driving to Virginia. So now this is how I thought vacations were taken. You just say, okay, let's go. So we packed and we drove to Richmond that very night, I think, and we went by and picked up Jim, and we went by and picked up the pastor and his wife from the Pilgrim Holiness Church
What were
there.
they? Coles, wasn't it?
No,
Shepherd.
Chef. Brother and sister Chef.
Brother and sister Chef.
Chef.
We took our first airplane ride. Daddy had a
Double-winged airplane ride.
Daddy had a things for airplanes. He couldn't pass an airport without stopping, and they used to give, rides at airports back then. Airplanes was kind of a new thing.
Yeah.
And so we all got in the brother and sister Chef and us 3 kids got in this little airplane and took an airplane ride. And I remember Jim said he wasn't afraid because we was sitting on the preacher's lap. The Lord wouldn't let anything happen to us.
Right. I remember that.
And I think we went back to Warm Springs where Daddy had pastored, didn't we?
Yeah, we stayed with
Rogers?
Grandpa Rogers on the mountainside.
Yeah, I remember that.
How old do you think you would have been?
Lord help us, I don't know. I was probably 8 years old.
How long? You were in Indy, what, 2 years?
I started school.
I was gonna, you would have had been older than 8 because you would have been 8 years old when Dad was born, when Mendel was born.
Oh, okay, so
She'd
probably 10 maybe.
So he was just a little
Just
pipsqueak.
So
You don't
who
remember
was
it then.
Grandpa and Grandma Rogers?
Yeah.
They were members of Dad's church when Dad and Mother pastored the Pilgrim Holiness Church in the mountains of Virginia.
No
out of
relation.
Hot Springs.
Warm Springs,
No,
okay.
no.
They were
We just
Grandma
called
and
them
Grandpa.
Grandma and Grandpa. And I remember
And
when
Jenny.
she milked the cow, she led the cow up to the corner of the fence, and she had a one-legged stool she sat on and sat and milked the cow. And then she had an old-fashioned butter churn, and she made butter.
This is Grandma Rogers?
Yeah.
And when were Grandpa Earl and Grandma Margaret married?
December of 34.
Okay.
December 13th?
I just said of 34.
no.
I don't.
There was always a confusion of the date.
I didn't
The
say-
strange,
I
the
didn't say
strange,
birthday, you
the
remember?
strange thing is, Dad married my mother either on the 26th or 28th or 29th of December, and he married Mother Margaret on one of the other dates in December. And for some strange reason, he couldn't keep it straight, and that used to
That
aggravate
really
your mother.
upset Mother, yes.
Yeah, she used to be really upset over
Yeah,
that.
'cause he couldn't remember.
But your mother was my mother's best friend in the church, and she served as pallbearer at my
Right.
mother's funeral.
Right.
Oh.
Yes, she
I don't know if you knew that or not, but she
Well, I knew she served as pallbearer
did. Yeah.
at your mother's funeral.
Well, Dad kept Anna's photograph on his dresser in their bedroom clear up until we lived on Rattler Street. And Mother finally said, I can't compete. And
Dad didn't use good judgment.
no.
Don't record that.
Well, that's all right.
No, it's not all right.
No, it's not.
No.
You're outvoted.
All right, I'll delete that part.
I wanted my dad to have lot of respect for my mother, Anna,
Sure.
and he did.
And he did.
But when he married your mother, she was his wife, and she needed to be treated like his wife.
Well, Anna was his first love.
Well,
And
that's
that was
all
a
right.
terrible blow for a young man
Let's
to
not
have
go
to live
there.
through.
Don't record this stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, let me ask you this question. You had said before, Aunt Marlene, about one time when you were visiting Jim over at his home.
No, don't go there.
Oh, God, I thought it was funny.
No,
Why not?
because don't make Jim feel bad.
No, it wasn't.
Makes me feel better.
See, now you got it.
Well, I was just telling her about, Wilbur was there one time, and I went home with you guys, and because I just thought Wilbur, I almost idolized Wilbur as much as I did you. He was almost up there with you.
Yeah, I know. Well, I did claim him as a brother.
Yeah.
Sure,
Sorry.
sure. Well, no, I felt that way about it
We
too.
call him Uncle Wilbur.
Yeah.
But we were sitting on the couch, and I kind of put my leg up over your knee, and Mont just chewed me out. He said, "We don't do that kind of thing here."
I don't remember that.
See, that doesn't make you feel bad, does it?
I was just so embarrassed.
Well, I didn't know you were so fresh. You were Pilgrim Holiness. You were different than Nazarenes.
So did
You're forgiven.
Being fresh.
what about Grandpa's tool and die shop? Did you ever?
I
did
used
you?
to go on Saturdays with him, and he'd pick me up at my house, and I'd go work that in quotation marks. He tried to teach me how to run a lathe, but when it came to math, history and social sciences were my subjects, not math, and to run a lathe and a shaper and those machines, you have to have a mathematical mind.
Jim Bohr,
Yeah,
all those things he
yeah,
did.
yeah.
He was a genius.
He was.
He
was.
not have a college education, he was absolutely a genius
He was.
when it came to math. He made parts for the Redstone missile, which was the first one
Yeah,
to put anything for the United States in orbit around the Earth.
yeah.
He did extraordinary kinds of stuff. Marlene kept the books for him for a long time.
Well, your mother kept books for him too, didn't she?
I don't know.
Not until he got into mission work.
Oh,
She did,
okay.
but when he was in
She ran the
town-
lathe.
Yeah, I know she did. I know she did. Yeah.
Well, didn't he get in trouble when he had that?
Oh yeah, when he was doing his work for the Redstone missile under the Department of Defense, and the Palladium item came out, took his picture. Dad was great
That was-
about getting his picture.
That was the newspaper, right?
That must be
And it
where
was
you
right on
get that, huh? That must be where you get that.
I
Get
think
your
so.
picture
And,
paper,
and
everything.
he got, there's this wonderful picture of him holding this flange that he made very close, very, very close tolerance. Extraordinary. He would be so proud of the work that Cheryl does.
Yes,
now.
he would
You know,
be.
It's just extraordinary. Every time I think about the work you do, it's like, oh God, Dad would really love that. But very close tolerance. And so they took his picture about how he had a part in getting that up there. And the Department of Defense came down on him like a box of rocks because that was
Classified
top
stuff.
secret
Classified.
classified information.
Yeah. I think Mendel ought to tell the story about Dad writing to President Eisenhower.
Oh, good Lord.
I think you need to tell that
Yes,
story.
you need to. I
Oh,
want to
good
hear this
Lord.
story.
You remember that, Charles?
It's been a long time. I don't remember how the
I
story
was in, thanks to Charles.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's your dad's fault that I'm
Thanks.
part of this family.
Thanks,
I'll tell
thanks,
that later.
thanks to Charles, I joined the Indiana National Guard, and that was during the time of the Soviets were putting down the rebellion in Hungary. And President Eisenhower had said that we were going to send troops over there to liberate Hungary. A few years ago, I went to Hungary, and I said, "Okay, I'm here." And the Soviets weren't at that time. But
Stick with the story, Dad.
It involved us having the company clerk forge my father's name on the papers because Dad refused to sign the papers for me to be there. I
He
wasn't
was a
old
good
enough.
company clerk.
Yes.
What he's doing.
So he forged the name. So anywho, what were we talking about?
Letter to President
Your letter
Eisenhower.
to the
So
president.
one of the deals, of course, I'm Pilgrim Holiness, you know, and I you know, the expression goes, I wouldn't say shit if my mouth was full of it. And so the deal was that they had a thing in Indianapolis over the weekend for weekend warrior training, and I went to this thing, and they had a little bar set up, and they were showing pornographic movies in the bar, and I said, I don't go to bars, I don't participate in that, and I sat downstairs by a Coke machine while this was going on, and a colonel came by and ordered me, under orders, to go upstairs to the bar. So under orders I went, and then I told my dad about it. So Dad wrote a letter to Mamie Eisenhower, because he figured that if he wrote it to President Eisenhower, it wouldn't get to him, but he wrote to Mamie, and he was just taking Eisenhower to task because Eisenhower had opened up a bar in the White House, the first time that it had ever been one there, and he was just ranting and raving to him about that and about how they had forced me to go into this bar, and so that went all the way up and then came all the way down, and about a month later I was back in the same place, and the company commander brought me in and he chewed me out about me writing the President of the United States. I said, I didn't write the President of the United States. And he pulled out the letter, Earl Adams. I said, that's my father. I said, sir, I'm under orders, but he is not under orders. He is a civilian, and if he wants to write the President of the United States, he can write the President of the United States, and you can't do anything about it. So after that, they had me to hold weekend services there, and I got to preach to those people.
Good. His company commander was Captain White. I don't know if it was any kin of yours or not.
I don't know.
I can't remember his first name.
Well,
His
yeah,
name was White.
that's what happened.
How old were you when you joined the service, Dad?
17?
Because you had to be 18.
But it's Charlie's fault. I think they were given special rewards to people.
Well, I didn't tell you they gave you $100 every time you signed somebody up.
Did they give you $100? You rascal, you owe me $50.
I lied. Little white lie.
That was two of those white lies, right?
Oh, Dad was so angry about us doing that. He said, why did you do that? I said, well, I want to be a man. He said, what do you mean you want to be a man? I said, I want to be a man. I want to join the military. I
Did
want
you
to be
tell
a
him
man.
he'd be a man if he joined the National Guards with you?
Huh?
Did you tell him he'd be a man if he joined the National Guards with you?
I don't remember that part of it. Of course, he remembers stuff that I never knew.
He's a good salesman, I'll tell you that.
Oh, I know that.
He got you, right?
That's right. I got to even turn that off, but I just got to tell you why I'm part of this family.
Uh-oh.
When my father had pastored the church in Richmond for 4 years,
First Pilgrim Holiness Church.
the First Pilgrim Holiness Church in Fairview, the church decided, some of the leaders of the church decided it was time for my father to leave. Dad didn't feel like his ministry was through there, but it's up to the church. The Pilgrim Holiness Church voted, membership in present voted, you had to have at least a 2/3 vote to retain your position at that church.